Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. As always, I am joined by my co-host Ume, who's a professional football scout and analyst. And today we're here to cover this. Carlos Baleba is the perfect midfielder for Manchester United. Okay, welcome back to the channel. I tried to do this before, but we'll do it again. This is obviously Ume's last recording day with us. Yeah. He's now got his dream move, like a transfer, to the BBC, where he's a tactics correspondent. Yeah. So obviously, please join me in wishing Ume the absolute best for the next steps of his career. We built something really good here, and don't worry, it's not going anywhere. There's
bigger and better.
There's something coming, but I just want to let everyone know that obviously this is Ume's last record day with us. So yeah, it's been brilliant.
You've got me doing United videos.
Yeah, United videos. So going back to the main topic of the video, which is Baleba going to Manchester United potentially. This is a very like up in the air whether or not this is going to happen. Yeah. But Manchester United have obviously done a lot of business now over the past maybe week or two. Sesko got done in probably one of the fastest ways I've seen a Manchester United transfer move in quite some time. And Indy Carla and David Ornstein, got to give him his roses. David Ornstein, Fabrizio, all the top dogs in the game, reported that Manchester United are actually looking at Carlos Baleba. So I want to move on into sort of why this is such an important deal for Manchester United. It's something that we kind of questioned the Sesko piece of business around, which was Manchester United need a midfielder. Where is that midfielder going to come from? And it looks like they're probably going to go for the most expensive one in the market. And whether or not they're going to be able to do it, we have no idea. But to put some context into it, Manchester United are still weighing up the sales of Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho, Højlund. Yeah. There's a lot of players who could leave the club, which could obviously open up more funds for Carlos Baleba. Now, it's very hard to find anything wrong with him as a player. But I want you to just kind of give a top and bottom as to who is Carlos Baleba, how good is it, and what would Manchester United get out of this signing?
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Baleba, absolutely incredible footballer, and we always say this about Brighton's kind of conveyor belt of amazing footballers that come through: McAllister, Caicedo, Baleba, and with all of these players, look, you think you've got the best one, and then the next one that they sign seems to be even better. So for me, look, he's a player who can kind of do everything you want from a central midfielder, from a true kind of box-to-box player. The way that he receives in that build-up against pressure on his back, uses both feet to play that bounce pass, and his most impressive quality, in my opinion, is how he turns and drives. Yeah. He keeps defenders off of him. They can't kind of follow him, and they can't kind of keep up with him, take the ball off him at all, in the same way that, as a Manchester City fan, Yaya Toure used to do for these areas all the way into these areas, and he can make these long 20, 30, all the way to 50 yards kind of runs from the edge of his area. Yeah. And on the end of that long busting run that he will make, he makes the right decision. He's got a great weight of pass on him. He's a very aggressive player in terms of his dueling. He jumps out and presses really aggressively, and he often wins the ball as well. So from an athletic profile, from a technical profile, he's got both of those aspects in abundance. So I just want to mention, actually, before we get into the video further, when he was in his under 13s, he was a winger, and he was nicknamed Maradona. And then he had a little injury, and now he's this sort of incredibly strong dribbling box-to-box midfielder. So perhaps there's that innate winger in him that explains some of his incredible dribbling quality. But that's what stands out to me initially, that dribbling quality and that ability to carry the ball as well as be strong in the build-up.
Yeah, it's quite funny with Baleba because I think every Manchester United fan going into this summer window was like, we need a midfielder. Like, I'd just stop every signing just to get a midfielder. Yeah. And it looks like Manchester United, the number one midfielder they do want, is the one that Manchester United fans have unironically been preaching
I don't know if they've willed it into the recruitment.
I made a tweet about this is like the weirdest thing that's ever happened because Manchester United fans were manifesting this signing for ages, and then the reports started to come out and we were like, wait, where's this come from?
I feel like this is happening more often with clubs in general, like
influencing their own business.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any sort of, if it is true at all, but like even as a Manchester City fan, the Rodrigo links is the same thing a couple of seasons ago. You see it with Baleba now.
Even
Spurs,
Sesko.
Well, Spurs fans have been saying it as well for some of the number 10s that they're linked to
Yeah,
as well. So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of
Maybe in the years.
Yeah.
And to give you an idea as to how good Baleba is before we get into his tactical fit, we've got sort of 3 different stats to show you here. So we're looking at under 21s midfielders for duels. So he has a 55.4% duel winning success rate for midfielders under the age of 21. So obviously at the top we've got Amadou Kone, Andre Santos, João Neves, Jude Bellingham, some of the best ball winners in Europe at them ages. Actually, not just at them ages, probably in the game, yeah. And on top of that, we've also got his progressive carries. So he made 200 progressive carries for Brighton in the Premier League last season. Only Zaire Emery and Andy Diouf. Andy Diouf, by the way, sensational player. I would just throw that out there. Really long legs. Sort of similar kind of profile, to be fair, from Lons, who's got 210, with Bellingham actually behind Carlos Baleba with 9, which is interesting considering how much of a carrier you consider Jude Bellingham to be. And that just kind of stipulates everything about Carlos Baleba. And now, one of the most important things when I was actually watching Baleba was Manchester United don't have a midfielder who takes up one of these positions who's left-footed.
Yeah.
And watching Manchester United in pre-season, we've seen a lot of, we've covered this in the pre-season piece, we've seen a lot of this pass to Amad Diallo and then this looking inside for the midfielders. Mm-hmm. If we can imagine that Baleba's going to be this left central midfielder, or maybe even the right central midfielder, he can play obviously either one, the angles that opens up. So if say Amad Diallo is playing this sweeping inside pass with his left foot, Baleba takes it on the back foot, which is one of his best attributes. One of his best attributes is his deft touch. He touches the ball and you don't know where he's going until he's gone. Yeah. So he can go both sides, but I think his ability to open up his body, receive, always be on the swivel is his best thing. And it's very Pogba-like, very Mainu-like when he broke through and he was picking up the ball here, which is a lot of back foot stuff, a lot of uses of the arms. I think.
And then his second touch is often with the other foot.
Yeah, so just to knock it into distance. So it's like a 1-2 go. And one of my good friends, Joel, on Twitter actually calls it the stiff arm, which I think is like a brilliant term to sort of get around this. And we've seen Pogba, Yaya Toure, as you mentioned, kind of use their arms, Dembele, but he's not a mammoth midfielder. So even though the other lads are very agile and the big, powerful, strong, he's very strong, but he's very small. Yeah. Therefore, he's almost a bit like a Thiago when he turns on the ball, which is like he protects the ball that much with his legs and his arms, so that when he opens up the body, you can't really get anywhere near him.
And I think with his two-footedness, he always has the ball on the far side to where the player is. If the player's here, he'll be using his left foot, and if the player's on this side, he'll move and shift it onto his right there, whilst using his arm. So everything that he does with his arms and his legs is to keep the ball on the opposite side of the defender trying to get the ball off of him. Yeah,
and I think as well, he's obviously he'll learn this with more and more games. He's still a young lad. We discussed earlier, maybe he tries to do it too much. Maybe he doesn't understand when to play, but you don't want to suppress that. No. I would rather watch him do it 199 times out of 200 and fail the one, because the amount of sort of space he gives you, amazing. Yeah. So, just moving back on. So, when I was watching Manchester United, we were somewhat building sort of these vertical sequences down the flanks. And if we can imagine this is Amad Diallo playing this signature almost in-step ball into the midfield, having someone like Baleba here instead of a Casemiro, a Bruno Fernandes, a Ugarte, who are very right-footed players and they often play these looping long balls into the channel. Now what we could have is Baleba who turns on the ball, opens up his body left foot and then can play all the way down the side.
Slows the game down actually in a good way.
He's got a good feel for the game. He's not a Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, they are sort of these direct kind of want to go forward passers. Yeah. Whereas Baleba kind of has the best of both worlds where he can slow down play. He's got this wonderful, I said this to you before, this wonderful like clipped through ball where he gets just underneath the ball enough to lift it off the floor but generate enough backspin so when it lands it's got like a favourable drop. And it's so, honestly, he's a wonderful, wonderful passer and carrier of the ball. And I just think he would solve a lot of problems for Manchester United in the build-up. I don't think a lot of Manchester United's problems off the ball are personnel-driven now, because I think they've got the right people or the right players in the team who are tenacious enough. But I think on the ball is probably where you would see the drastic improvement between sort of these centre-halves having the confidence to pass the ball into a player like Baleba instead of Fernandes, Casemiro, Ugarte, who aren't these, swivel players. But can you just give us some insight into sort of what he's like off the ball, because we mentioned before how he just crashes into everything, and like it's a good thing. But can you explain to obviously what Manchester United would get out of him jumping?
No, look, I certainly agree with that athleticism, that speed, and also the speed of thought to know when to jump. And I think oftentimes, because he knows he's got the pace to get out to players quickly, he'll often make these jumps to players who feel like they're really far apart and the ball's in the air. He'll make this jump all the way here, and he'll often win the ball as well in situations that look as mad as having that much distance. In general, I will say, when you're looking at this Manchester United team, there's kind of two ways that they've played. They've played in a way that sits deep and tries to block space. That's been a 5-3-2 or a 5-4-1. Sometimes it's been a 4-4-2 as well. And in those situations, there's not much space to cover, but laterally, he's very good at covering space in these situations. That's a relatively small space for a player who's got such good coverage. So in those situations, I don't really worry about his kind of ability to cover space in general. In situations when United are trying to push higher up the pitch, they've often struggled to kind of follow up, and that's oftentimes been, like we mentioned in previous videos, the wide centre-backs not jumping out enough. We've seen the change in profiles in terms of who they've brought in and who they're playing in those situations. Luke Shaw, Yoro, Heaven as well. So those kind of players can jump out now. So can these players kind of make that jump up? And look, Casemiro, as much as he tries, he's a player who suits playing in those smaller spaces in a set defence. Baleba, in my opinion, does the really impressive job of jumping and shifting what man he's on relative to the situation of the game. So if the ball was progressed down this side, for example, and you had a situation like this, if this man wasn't able to get out, you might see Baleba quickly jump into this situation and have someone else cover behind him.
Yeah.
And because he's got the athleticism and he's got the ability to read when to go, he often jumps and covers situations and almost firefights in those situations to put a dangerous situation at rest, which is, in my opinion, really important when this shape can be prone to being bypassed, as we've seen over the last season.
Just his application to Jules, sort of that ability to go, okay, I'll go and close someone down, or I'll go and fight for that ball. We watched the game earlier where there was this ball in the air and he's not even in the picture, and as the ball's dropped into the player's chest, he just runs out of the blind side of the screen and just crashes into the duel just to get something on the ball. And I think that sort of mentality is something that Manchester United potentially don't have across the team, maybe apart from Ugarte, who applies himself to a lot of
I think
duels.
Casemiro has the mentality, and perhaps Bruno as well, but physically...
Physically they can't.
Yeah, and reading when to do that.
Yeah.
Perhaps... that they're not the best at doing so. And I think Baleba has some, flaws in terms of he might go too aggressively at times where he might not need to.
Yeah.
But his physical base often covers for some of those preemptive jumps or perhaps jumping a little bit too late.
I think Baleba, as we mentioned before, the feel for the tempo, the feel of when to go, when to play shot, when to force a ball in, is exceptional. And I think he suits the number 10s really well in terms of finding them.
Yeah.
And I think we've lacked for a couple seasons now either a volume passer in these areas or a volume carrier. And this is the massive thing about Manchester United fans, is they're fuming because we've disregarded this area for so long.
But so my worry when you say all of this is because I agree you can do both. Yeah. Especially if you're pairing with someone who's probably less athletic in terms of big spaces like Mainu, you've suddenly got both. And I would love to see how those two players play together. But my question, and perhaps you'll have an answer, perhaps we won't have an answer, is we've seen Amorim sides. We know from his quotes about Sesko and Sesko being the reference point, for example. So we've seen this model in terms of the build-up from Amorim, in terms of you pass the ball into these situations. And once you get it into these areas, you're trying to kind of sweep it long immediately. That's why you've kind of got these quotes about Amorim mentioning Sesko being really strong at running the channels. Which is fine. I think it's certainly a good method to use if a team's pressing you and this middle area is cramped. But in my opinion, I think a player as good as Baleba under pressure, who can play these bounce passes with both feet, or who can just take the pressure on his back, turn, spin in, and establish territory a lot higher up the pitch. I really hope that he's utilised in a way where you get more of the ball progressed down the middle rather than going straight down the sides, which is, look, it's something that we're going to see from Amorim, hopefully. But if it's not the case, then I think it would be a shame just to utilise Baleba as somebody who covers ground really well.
Yeah, just tops into duels and
And even if that's the case, he's one of the best in the league at it.
Yeah.
But we know that he's so much more of that. he's got so much more of general quality on the ball.
Playing quality. I just wanted to show you here on screen, we've got Carlos Baleba's progressive carries map where he got 200 in the Premier League, and we can see that he's got massive clusters all the way down the middle of the pitch, which is showing his ability to cut through.
And no one goes down the middle.
Such a dangerous place to carry through. And I think Manchester United are one of them teams who, like, we've got the 210s and we've got the 260s, but like we can't really play through the middle of teams. And I think that's something that Sesko will aid a lot more because it gives you a focal point in behind. And I think Cunha's that similar sort of profile as, can we get here? Can we pick the ball? Can we drive? But we're yet to see a lot of that. Yeah. I think with Baleba, I really, really hope the same as you, that we can get him on the ball and he can use some of them attributes where he can spin on the ball, he can play with the ball, his tempo is really good.
If you find this player to find Baleba rather than swinging it in,
and then him opening up his body.
Because central dribblers, I always say this, central dribblers are, in my opinion, like one of the best profiles in football, because when they're running directly, it's such a unique and foreign experience for players and teams. Players automatically start jumping on this player, but because they've got so much momentum running from deep, it's hard for them to stop them.
Yeah.
And by attracting all of these bodies around them, there's so much space in wide areas, in other areas of the pitch, which he's really good at finding with that weight of pass and the timing of release. He knows when to release the pass after a carry, which is probably one of the hardest things to do in general. So by having that central dribbling quality, I think he will actually maximize a player like Mbeumo, for example, to have more space in these wider areas.
Yeah. One of the things that's kind of like unknown about him for me, he feels like he has an uncapped like speed on the ball. Like, I don't know how fast he is, but when he gets going on the ball, he looks rapid. Like, he looks so fast. And I think that ability, like you said, where he's carrying at momentum on the ball, he's not one of them players who takes like 2 or 3 touches to reach top speed on the ball. Yeah. He's almost, his first step is like, he's fast and it's like really, really good acceleration across small distances. And I think that means that when, like, say Baleba's facing a build-up hit this way, and say he's sort of got 2 men on him, if he just rides the contact here, if you allow Baleba to turn, he's gone.
It's like a Doku,
really
isn't it?
Yeah, like Doku is like, once he creates that 1 yard, and if he gets the space to turn, then you're not really getting near him, and it sort of takes like a longer tackle or someone in front to actually close him down. It doesn't feel like he's a player who you can knock off shoulder to shoulder. I think I watched a Spurs away game, and Pape Matar couldn't even press him reliably on his back.
And I like Sarr.
And Sarr's like one of the best midfield pressers, in my opinion, like in the Premier League in terms of jumping on the back of a number 6. Yeah. I was like, how is he just wriggling out? Yeah. This is like a leggy midfielder.
Quotes as well.
Yeah, so like Amadou Onana was saying that he's like ripped, and he was like almost shocked as to how strong he was when he was at Lille. Not even when he was at Brighton, when he was at Lille. And this is a 6'4", massive limmy.
One of the most athletic.
Yeah, one of the most athletic midfielders in the league, and he's saying that about Baleba. Yeah. And I'm a bit like, what could we potentially get our hands on here? Because I think after so many years of disregarding the midfield, you can make what you want about other signings in midfield over the past couple of years, but none of them have probably returned on investment as of yet.
Bar Bruno.
Sorry, of course. But I'm looking now for a mainstay young midfielder who's athletic and good enough on the ball. Yeah. And you can't really go for any better than Baleba. He's considering his Premier League proven and everything like that. I was looking, after we signed Sesko, I was doing some research and I was looking at players like Pape Gay from Villarreal, Agume from Sevilla.
Good players, right?
So I was looking for all these cut price options.
Yeah, on Udeka, I've mentioned.
Yeah, on Udeka, And so I was looking for all these like cut price midfielders. Next thing you know, Manchester United want the most expensive midfielder on the market. And I'm like,
I think pay what he's worth. Like, I said it before Sesko signed, because there were some links prior to Sesko joining, but as much as United need a striker, if they had to forfeit a Sesko to sign Baleba, I think that would have been a worthwhile use of funds, given how highly I do rate him and the needs that United do have in the middle of the park. The fact that they went Sesko first, in my opinion, highlights to me that perhaps they are still kind of going with this long, direct approach once built wide. But if they can get a player like Baleba in, he answers so many questions for Manchester United in general.
Just want to wrap up now, just from your perspective as well as mine, because I'm a Manchester United fan, so obviously I want you to give me hope here. Cunha, Mbeumo, Sesko, Baleba, on top of no European football, Manchester United have got to be finishing in the top 4 with that, haven't they?
I think on player quality, so I've said this, the way I judge things is, if you look at your starting 11 and your bench, or even just the starting 11 when you play direct games against opponents, if your team on player quality is better than the opposition's team on player quality, you should be winning that game.
Yeah.
I know that sounds quite basic, but I think the teams often look at how your squad's built and how the manager's set up and all of those things, and try to compare and extrapolate an entire season for another team's entire season.
Yeah.
Whereas really, you only have to be better than the team you're facing on 38 separate occasions. Do you know what I mean? So if you simplify it like that, I think Manchester United on player quality have better individuals in their 11 positions than a lot of teams in the Premier League.
I just think, like, I look at with a midfielder in there, and I'm not saying like we've spent funds absolutely incredibly. It will be like a £300 million window, so I'm not saying it's we've finally got a midfielder. Like we've not overpaid for one. Like, do you know? But like
3 of the best Premier League players last
season.
Do
you know what I mean? So I feel like you've also, how many teams are in Europe this season? 8, 9.
Yeah.
And you've not even got one midweek game in Europe, and the squad's as big as it is. You've signed 3 attackers, you've signed a crucial midfielder who actually gels with their partners better.
Yeah.
You've got Heaven and Yoro who are now like fully fledged in the squad.
Mason Mount's come back from injury.
Diallo's fit, Mason Mount's back from injury. I'm not saying that like we should go and push really, really hard for the title or second or third.
But can you argue that this team on quality would be better than Aston Villa's last season?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I mean. I'm like, surely we've got to be looking a lot higher up than
10. 9,
just like, because I've seen people like,
I agree with you.
I've seen people like predicting seasons, and I'm like 7 for 8 for prediction for United. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm sort of being like, Amorim, come on now, because you've got the squad now.
Yeah.
If he gets Baleba again, time of recording. But yeah, I'm just saying we have the squad now to be pushing.
There shouldn't be many excuses.
Do you know what I mean? There shouldn't be any excuses going into next season, especially if we get the midfielder. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and follow the channel, and let us know what you think about Manchester United potentially signing Carlos Baleba. I'll be back next week on The Breakdown.